All right, good morning, everybody. It's your boy Akeem from Pro Football Exclusive, continuing things on with my previews for the 2014 college football season. For today's blog, I'm here to talk about the Big 12 Conference. Now, I have a couple headlines for you guys. Starting with, we have a new head coach within the Big 12 Conference for the Texas Longhorns, my man Charlie Strong, to replace a great head coach in Mac Brown, many 10-win seasons, and he has a lot of work cut out for him for Charlie Strong, and he's actually going to have to change the landscape of Texas to put the T back in Texas. Texas has been struggling for the past couple of seasons, and Mac Brown had to step down, and now Charlie Strong's the new head coach, and I'm very excited personally because you guys already know that I'm a huge Longhorn fan, and I think their defense is definitely going to improve a lot this upcoming season because Charlie Strong is such a great defensive-minded coach. Now, offensively, they're going to need a lot of help, and they actually have been struggling developing great players on the offensive side of the football field. Now, we had a couple of #1 recruits coming out of high school and over the years, but they actually have not developed well yet. Starting with Garrett Gilbert, he was a #1 quarterback and a #1 recruit according to ESPN 300 years ago, but he did not par well. He was a little bit of a bust. He was a bust at Texas, but then he transferred to SMU and had a pretty decent senior season, as well as the #1 running back a couple years ago, and Jonathan Gray. Now, he had back-to-back 700-yard seasons running the football, and he is entering his junior year, but he still has not became the star running back that I had my high hopes on him. Now, also have one particular player, they're now starting quarterback, and David Ash, been suffering a couple of concussion issues throughout his career. Now, he is 100% ready for the start of the season, but I'm still concerned with his health issues, and the quarterback play is going to be very key offensively for the Texas Longhorns to complement the running game with Malcolm Brown and Jonathan Gray. So I think Charlie Strong's going to have to do a lot of work during the offseason, but he does have, there is a couple of good news for Charlie Strong. He has 7 returning starters on the offensive side and 8 returning starters on defense, which means he has a lot of experience on both sides of the field, and that is a good thing, but he still has a lot more work to do. Last but not least, now there's not that many key star elite players within the Big 12 Conference. If you look at the stat numbers from last season, there was a lot of positions, a lot of players who did kind of had some good marks last season, but they pretty much shared the field with their teammates among the teams. Now, there weren't that many big name stars, but except for Baylor, they had a great quarterback, and Bryce Petty as also an outstanding receiver, and Antoine Goodley, who I will mention as impact players. But other than that, there weren't that many star key players on both sides of the field. Now, we did have Jackson Jeffcoat, the co-defensive player of the year award winner last season, who led the league with 13 sacks. He's actually no longer with the Big 12 Conference. So we're really going to be looking for who's going to step up this upcoming year and become a star. Now, let's talk about some impact players. I just mentioned Bryce Petty and Antoine Goodley from Baylor. First, starting off with Petty, he's actually another Heisman candidate entering this season. 4,200 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Just 3. Had a great record last season. They did lose in the Fiesta Bowl to UCF, but they had an outstanding year. Actually, they're the defending Big 12 champs. Now, the wide receiver Antoine Goodley, he had over 1,300 yards receiving last season and 13 touchdowns, second in the Big 12 Conference behind Chase Amaro, who is now a New York Jet. Goodley had an outstanding year, and he's a little bit of a freak of nature and a workout buff guy. He's a workaholic in the gym, and I think he could be a great prospect in the National Football League. Another wide receiver that everybody should be looking at is Tyler Lockett out of Kansas State. Now, he had over 1,200 yards receiving, 1,262 yards to be exact, and 11 touchdowns. And he is also my candidate to be a first team all Big 12 performer, not only at receiver, but also as a special teamer, a kick returner. He's definitely a pretty good return specialist, a good all-purpose player as a return specialist and a wide receiver. I think he's an outstanding player. He should make Big 12, first team all Big 12. And my prediction should come at the end of the season at both wide receiver and as return specialist. Headed over to the defensive side, his teammate Ryan Mueller, who actually was second in the Big 12 with 11.5 sacks to go along with 62 tackles. He can make a run for first team all Big 12 and even garner the Defensive Player of the Year award at the end of the season. Sticking on the defensive side, Cedric Reed, my man from the Texas Longhorns, teammates with Jackson Jeffcoat. He actually was among the top 5 in sacks last season with 10, and also had 68 tackles last season, and I think that he will be an immediate impact impact player. Because of the loss of Jackson Jeffcoat, Reed's definitely going to have to be the leader of that defensive line and even close out and even try to compile more sacks to replace Jackson Jeffcoat's sacks. Headed over for the secondary, Sam Carter out of TCU, the safety. Now, he had 5 interceptions last season, 5 sacks, and 49 tackles. Those are great numbers, and I think he could become an All-American at the end of the season. Still has some coverage skills that he needs to work on, but as far as covering, being a better center fielder, still a couple of things he can improve in, but I still think he's a great all-around safety that you're looking for. And I'm also looking for him supporting the run a little bit more often, and I think he needs to collect more tackles. Isaiah Johnson, the safety out of Kansas, he was actually the Big 12 defensive newcomer of the year. He also had 5 interceptions and 70 tackles, and I definitely have my eyes on him this upcoming season. Breakout performance for the 2014 season within this conference. I'm going to start with quarterback Trevor Knight out of Oklahoma. Now, after an amazing MVP performance in the Sugar Bowl win over Alabama, in which he posted 348 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and an interception in that MVP performance, he's definitely on my list as a breakthrough athlete this upcoming season. Secondly, Shock Linwood, the running back out of Baylor. Now, Lake Seastrunk's no longer with the team, and this is going to be Linwood's show at the running back position. He had 881 yards rushing, 6.9 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns. And with Lake Seastrunk had over 1,100 yards rushing, that means I honestly believe that Linwood could definitely get at least 1,300 yards this upcoming season, possibly even lead the Big 12 in rushing, just like Seastrunk did last season. At the wide receiver position, Jakeem Grant, the wide receiver from Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is losing their top 2 targets, and Eric Ward, he's now a Tennessee Titan, and I just mentioned Jace Amaro for the New York Jets. Those 2 were their top leading targets, so this is Grant's opportunity to be the leader and be that leading receiver for the Red Raiders. Last but not least, on the offensive side, E.J. Bibbs out of Iowa. He had 462 yards receiving last season and 39 receptions. I think those numbers are definitely going to go up this season, and also just 2 touchdowns. I think he could possibly get at least 6 touchdowns come at the end of the season. I think he could be a good prospect for the National Football League. Headed over to the defensive side, this is a name that I mentioned before, particularly last season, Devontae Fields out of TCU. Now, he was injured pretty much of all of last season, only had 4 tackles, and I think he's going to have a great comeback season, possibly earn Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's actually the preseason Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, headed towards this season already. Sticking with the defensive side, Eric Stryker, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Now, in that performance, his performance in the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, he had 3 sacks and 7 tackles, a big time performance. He only had 7 sacks overall last season, only 4 sacks before that game, and I think he's going to have a breakthrough performance, particularly being shown more as a great pass rusher, good outside linebacker, but even he could give you a punishing, devastating hit as an inside linebacker as well. I think he's going to be all over the field this upcoming season. Going with the secondary on defense, Quandre Diggs out of Texas, one of my Longhorns. Now, he had 9 pass breakups last season to go along with 3 sacks and 49 tackles, but 0 interceptions. I hope he needs to improve. He definitely needs to improve the ball skills, but I have my eyes on him as a good, decent cover corner, and I think he could make all Big 12 honors at the end of the season. And last but not least, Carl Joseph, the safety out of West Virginia. Now, he had 1 interception and just 4 pass breakups, but 68 tackles, and he's another player who could deliver a huge hit. He's actually rated the hardest hitter entering the season in the Big 12 Conference, according to media news in NFL.com. You can definitely take a look at that, but I think he's an outstanding player, and I think he still has a lot more to improve, particularly in his coverage skills. He could definitely support the run. He did have 68 tackles, not a whole lot, but I think he's going to improve this season and be more of a role model on the defensive side. I think everybody needs to keep an eye on him, the kid from West Virginia, and Carl Joseph. Now, I have a couple impact freshmen for you guys headed into the season in the Big 12 Conference. A couple of great recruits. KD Cannon, the wide receiver, he's actually going to enter as a true freshman at Baylor. He's 6 foot, 163 pounds. Yes, he's kind of slim, but he is speedy and he's very athletic, and he also possesses blazing speed and good quickness to even have to punish corners around the perimeter of the field. I think this is going to be an outstanding pickup for the Baylor Bears. He definitely is, he is a 5-star recruit. Sticking with Baylor, Davion Hall. Now he could do damage as a wide receiver and a safety. I think he's going to play wide receiver, but he could even convert to the safety position. But I think he could be a better threat along with Cannon as a good a good tandem as two freshmen entering together. I think they can have a great career together in the receiving corps. Joe Mixon, the running back, entering on this season for Oklahoma. I think this was a pretty good recruit. Now he's a speedy kid at 6'2", 195 pounds, who could definitely has enough. He possesses great power to run through arm tackles, which is a great thing. I think he could work well in that running back corps for the Oklahoma Sooners as a true freshman. Now going to the defensive side, I have two players in particular for the Texas Longhorns, starting with Derek Robinson, the defensive end. Now he's a little bit slim at 6'4", 235 pounds. Now he is a big kid in my opinion, but he's a little bit slim for the defensive end position. He does need to bulk up, but he's a lot stronger than a lot of people think, and he is one of the top 100 recruits entering this season, according to ESPN 300. He is a 4-star recruit, by the way. Also, we have another 4-star recruit in Edwin Freeman. Now, he is a stud at 6'1", 212 pounds. Now, he can play either safety or outside linebacker. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit more to be an outside linebacker. I think he should start at safety, but if he gains more weight, and he is just a true freshman, so he has plenty of time to gain weight, he could convert to outside linebacker and be a pretty good pass rusher. He definitely has some great speed. He runs a 4.5 40, which is decent speed at the safety position, but if he bulks up, keeps the speed at 4.5 and still bulks up and become an outside linebacker, I think he can become a huge threat in college football. So those are my top freshmen entering this season. Now I have a couple of games for you guys that I think that everybody should keep an eye on this upcoming year in Big 12 play. Starting with September 25th, Texas Tech is going to be playing at Oklahoma State. Now this is going to be a decent matchup between these two teams. October 4th, Baylor's going to be playing at Texas. Texas lost to Baylor and had Texas beaten Baylor in that final matchup at the end of the season. Texas would have made it to a BCS bowl game in the Fiesta Bowl against UCF. October 11th, OU is going to be playing versus Texas, the Red River rivalry. That's one of the greatest rivalries in college football. On November 8th, Baylor's going to be playing at Oklahoma. That's going to be an interesting matchup, particularly with the two quarterbacks in Trevor Knight and Bryce Petty. I think that's going to be a great duel. November 15th, Oklahoma State's going to be hosting Texas, and OU is going to be playing at Texas Tech. That could be an upset alert for OU against Texas Tech. I think this is going to be a rising Red Raider team led by former quarterback and head coach Cliff Kingsbury. November 22nd, Oklahoma State is going to be playing at Baylor. That's going to be an interesting matchup, as well as the final matchup in December 6th, Oklahoma State versus OU in-state rivalry. That these games will determine who will win the Big 12 championship. Even though this Big 12 conference has just 10 teams, this is still named the Big 12, and this is going to be, these are the key teams that everybody should be looking at: Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas, and Oklahoma. I think the race is between those particular 5 teams. Now, before I head off to who I think is going to win the Big 12 conference, I'm going to give you my predictions of who will win the honors, the awards at the end of the season. Coach of the year, I'm actually going to go with Art Briles, the head coach for the Baylor Bears. I think Baylor has an excellent opportunity to win the Big 12 championship again, and my man Art should garner the Big 12 coach of the year. Offensive newcomer player of the year. Now, if my man Dorial Green-Beckham is slated to play this upcoming season, it is still pending, and I have high hopes for him. If he does make it be able to be ruled in to play this upcoming season, because he was actually dismissed from the Missouri Tigers. He is now enrolled for Oklahoma. If he's allowed to play this upcoming year, I think he would have the excellent opportunity to become a great starter and become the newcomer player of the year, because Jalen Saunders, their leading receiver, he's actually no longer with the team. He's now in the NFL. But if he is not, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill, the Oklahoma State running back / wide receiver. Now, he's actually a JUCO transfer, and he's actually the Big 12 most outstanding freshman of the year in indoor track and field this past season. And I think this is an outstanding. This could be a good prospect for the Oklahoma State's Cowboys. Defensive newcomer player of the year, I'm going to go with Shaquille Reddick. Now, he's a great player, an All-American in the FCS division when he played for Gardner-Webb, and he transferred to West Virginia, and I think he could be an immediate impact on the defensive side and help the defense improve a lot for Dana Holgorsen's crew for West Virginia, and I think he will win the Big 12 Defensive Newcomer Player of the Year, just like how Charles Sims did as a senior when he transferred from Houston. Offensive Freshman of the Year, I'm going to go with Allen Lazard, the wide receiver, the 4-star recruit coming for Iowa State. Now, he should make an immediate impact at wide receiver, and the team has a lot of high hopes on this particular player. And the reason why I did not mention him earlier as my impact freshman, because I believe that the other players that I named above him were better recruits. He is still in the ESPN top 100. He's actually in the top 200. I believe he is at 148 entering this season, coming out of the 300. But I think he could because of the lack of depth that they have at the receiving core for Iowa State. This is definitely Lazard's opportunity to shine right away as a true freshman. So I have him as Offensive Freshman of the Year. Defensive Freshman of the Year, I'm gonna go with my man. I'm going to actually go to my man with Derek Robinson from Texas. I think he could make an immediate impact. Now, he might redshirt, but if not, I think he has an excellent opportunity to earn the Defensive Freshman of the Year honors for the Big 12 Conference. Now, Offensive Player of the Year, this was an obvious pick for me. I'm going to go with Bryce Petty out of Baylor. Now, due to the numbers that he had last season, he definitely has the weapons around him to duplicate those numbers this season and lead the Baylor Bears to possibly an undefeated season and the Big 12 Championship, and possibly even a trip to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So I'm going to have to go with Bryce Petty offensively. Defensive Player of the Year, now this was a little bit of a toss-up for me, but I'm not going to go with Devontae Fields. I'm actually going to go with my man Cedric Reed from Texas. Another guy, I just think he's going to step it up this season. 68 tackles and 10 sacks last year, and he does have to be replaced with Jackson Jeffcoat. Now, I think he's going to have to deal with a lot of double teams and a lot more attention, but I still think with that attention, he should still post up at least double-digit numbers for sacks total at the end of the season and garner Defensive Player of the Year. Now, my winner for the Big 12 Conference, I'm going to actually have to go with the Baylor Bears. They had a great year last season. Their offense is back. The defense should work well enough for the offensive side. Their offense actually averaged, I believe, 52 points per game. I think that they're going to have an explosive offense again this season with Shock Linwood as well as Antoine Goodley at the wide receiver position and Bryce Petty. That is a great trio, possibly the best trio in college football as far as running back, quarterback, and wide receiver. So I'm going to have to go with the Baylor Bears as the winners for the 2014 Big 12 Championship. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys will be on Monday, where I will start finally wrapping things up with my final preview with the non-AQ previews. I'm going to give you a combination of all of the non-AQ conferences and talk about the key games to watch out, to look out for, as well as the impact players that I believe that could be sleepers for the Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. So I'll catch you guys on Monday. Thank you for watching today's blog. From Pro Football Exclusive, I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.